And clicking. Hey, it's Matty G. We're coming at you live right here on TMG. This is After Dark. We are having a special After Dark takeover tonight. It is takeover. We've got a few faces that some of you may know, some of you may not know. One that has been on our channel before, and 3 others that are here to terrify you. I'm, of course, not alone. I'm going to introduce first our Mandalorian, Mr. Nicky. This is the way.
This is the way.
Hi, everybody. Yes, this is definitely a familiar face. Everybody knows this face. This is the face people don't want to see. But yeah, I'm here. It's odd to be here on what night is it? I don't even know. The the perception of time is an illusion, and we are all just here to share in the mass hallucination together.
Some people would say what these people do is a mass hallucination, but of course we're going to move on to our other buddy who's normally here, Mr. O. Aaron. What's up, buddy?
I'll just wait for Nikki to play the thing before I speak.
I know, right?
I don't think it's ready.
All right, well, I tried. All right. No, excited to be here. For all the episodes I've done of this show, we've interviewed a lot of small-time famous movie nerds. This is definitely not the same thing. And let's not break the law of our life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next up, we're going to introduce our friend. He's got a new channel going on, so he'll definitely want to talk about that. And he may or may not have experienced the 8 hours this weekend. Mr. Chris Smith, how goes it, buddy? And tell us a little about your new project.
Yeah, hey, man, thanks. Yeah, I got a new project going on called The Great American Horror Road Trip. Kind of like what I was doing before, where I'm going to touch base on extreme haunts and that, but this time I'm showing the whole road trip. Like, I went to Utah this weekend. I did a couple different experiences and then got to see some sights and that. So I'm putting a whole video together so you can see, as somebody who wants to travel, what else is out there, too, along with the haunt.
Right on. And just something that Chris and I may not have announced yet. Him and I are going to actually be doing something on that channel, horror movie related. We're going to be going over horror movie news. So that is definitely going to be fun. Now, the 3 people of the hour, Chase, Carly, and Maggie. Why don't you guys introduce yourself and introduce why you guys are so famous?
Hi.
Hey, guys. Real quick here, just to do a couple of announcements. That's Megan.
Hi. I have a weird name, I know.
She's our costumes and makeup director. That's her official title. This is Carly. This is my wife, Carly Dunfield. She's logistics, and I'm acting and directing over that situation. So just so you guys know who they are. But yeah, thanks for having us on, guys. We're really excited to talk shop and talk about the experience and answer all your fun questions. So we're excited. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And if you guys do have questions, absolutely drop them in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye there. We also have Streamlabs set up, so if you donate a little bit of money, guaranteed to have your question so we can see it, because there's a bunch of people in the chat. So let's get this started. How did you guys get started in the whole haunt business itself? Maybe I'm sure a lot of people watching know, but maybe some don't.
Yeah. You want to go ladies first, or?
We all have a little bit different stories, but they're all kind of the same. We all started like fairly young. I don't know how old you were when you started haunting.
Yeah, I personally, so I've been in the haunting business for about 20 years now. Just kind of hit my 20-year mark. I honestly got started in junior high. I was talking Halloween and horror with a friend of mine named Vanessa, and I was so into it that she like looked at me at one point and she was like, "Have you ever thought of like actually working for a haunted house?" And I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, you can do that? Like, you can audition for it? And she's like, yeah, totally. You would be great at it. And so I actually went to Castle of Chaos back when it was in the little town of Holiday in Utah. And I went there, went down a long staircase. There was like torches lit, and it looked like an actual castle at the time. And went downstairs, saw the lineup of all the vampires and the cool monsters and all of that were there, and talked to James Bernard, the owner, and a couple of the other people. And ever since then, I was addicted. Like I had the bug. So that's when it started for me. And I've been with Castle of Chaos for the majority of my haunting career. I did do a little bit of time working with Fear Factory that's here as well, getting them started and promoting and training their actors, which actually brings a pretty good transition to Carly's story. But yeah, so I'll let them take it away.
So when I was younger, my parents weren't like, go on house, it's fine. It's more like, you're not old enough. I was like, what do I wanna? So instead, I hid under my parents' bed for like 2 hours or like all day or whatever, and I would scare them constantly to the point where they saw that Fear Factory was holding auditions, and they're like, you need to go do this. And I was like, no, I'm scared. Like, you need to go do it. Okay. So I went, and then I got the job. And I saw him at the actor training, and I was like, he's cute. So then we became.
I just want to, okay, got to stop you there real quick. That was your first thought. He's cute. Just that right there.
Yeah, actually. But the funny bit is that we were both dating someone else at the time, and I saw him, and I was like, man. And then that relationship didn't go well. His relationship didn't go well, and we were friends for a while. And then we were texting for a while, for like a few months. And then he's like, hey, we have a lot in common. We should hang out. And I sat there and I was thinking, I was like, now what would I do? Like, do I just say something and take the risk? Do I not? Like, so I just called him and I was like, what are you doing Friday? I'm free. And then that's kind of
the story.
Yeah, that's the story.
For me, I didn't know anybody that is currently at Castle of Chaos or has ever been. But I was 13 years old, and random people I met in high school were like, oh, we like to go after this haunted house. Do you want to come? And I was like, please, God, give me friends. So I went, and they actually, that was the one and only night I acted at Castle of Chaos with them. They left, and I stayed. And I acted there ever since, and I just kept going, and then I started meeting new people, and they're like, wow, you're cool. And I was like, never been called that before.
So, okay, time out. Nikki, friends are a group of people that you come together with, kind of like we do on Saturday night.
I know. I got sad when she said that she was 13 when she met them. So I'm like, aw, I have no hope.
So, okay, I got to stop everybody here. Nikki
You don't have to.
He's our running joke. He looks like he's 12, and so that's a running joke. You know, like Saturday, we're gonna teach him what sliding into DMs mean. So if we drop those little hints, you guys understand.
He's a sliding into the DMs virgin, eh?
You guys, sex.
You asked for that one.
I was gonna say, do you guys want to hear the real joke? He's older than me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm older than most people.
That is true.
Yeah, but Aaron, you're also the one who saw a hooker getting out of somebody's car at McDonald's drive-through at 3
Listen, they're telling the horror stories here, not me. All right.
So just so you guys know, that's kind of the way our show runs. We may chime in just to bust each other's balls. Feel free to jump in at any time. So please continue.
Yeah. I kind of just it was a long time that I was just like the new kid there. Like I was the baby once upon a time too. Okay. But then people started to realize I was kind of good at it, and they liked me. And then I grew up into an actual adult person, and I was introduced to Krusebel, and I was just a normal part of the cast for a really long time. And then I moved in with Chase and Carly, and we all just became like so insanely passionate about it that we talk for hours on a very consistent basis about this. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, Carly and I put a lot into it, and we all three of us knew. I was like, it's about time that we take this over and we make it insane. And it just kind of escalated. I guess my haunting life is just constant escalations.
Okay, so you say you keep escalating. What's next? You're just gonna kill somebody? I mean, is that what's next?
I'm going to kill somebody and hide them in my closet.
Murder is always the natural last step.
It's like
Welcome
Commissioner
to the
Gordon
podcast.
said at the end
Not
of
like the
Batman
podcast.
Begins. They get body armor. We get body armor. They get armor piercing rounds.
Yeah.
But like escalation.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Absolutely.
I was
yeah,
gonna say
sorry,
for the CIA agent watching us, the thoughts of our guests do not pursue the thoughts of the people running the podcast. Please don't arrest me.
or vice versa. I mean,
That was me punching the CIA agent.
okay then.
Whoa.
We're not allowed to operate domestically, by the way, CIA.
Well, okay then. How about the FBI agent that's watching our stream?
FBI.
That is taking over
Send my resume.
That is taking over the Nikki Sullivan stream account. Yeah, there we go. No. So go ahead, guys. Sorry, this is. I've told you guys, Chase. When we talked about it, I said we're gonna throw the randomest shit in here. So,
Matty, you should be sorry. We're all offended.
God.
I live in Arizona, so it's not too far away.
Your ass in Krusebel.
I was gonna ask, where are you guys based out of?
What was that?
Where are you guys based out of?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
good ski city. You guys like to ski?
Nope.
No.
No.
No, of course not.
Expensive.
Nobody wants to die in the snow.
It's so
It's
expensive.
Even
Yeah, it is.
Personally,
Privileged people.
Yeah.
It's like golf. It's like, oh, you ski? Ugh.
you're gonna base
Nikki, you can ski. You have enough weight for gravity to carry you.
that.
I don't have the body to ski. I'm never going to be able to ski. I'm not even going to be able to go on a roller coaster again. My body will break if there is too much pressure on it.
I enjoy snowboarding. I'm just not very good at it, and just like they said, it's expensive. So, like, we went from just being a local here in Utah, we went from having it be like $20 to go snowboarding
A day.
to like $50 per day, or you can get a season pass, which costs you like as much as a house payment. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay you guys that much for me to use my own backyard basically to do a sport. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of
Especially like cross country skiing. Like cross country skiing, you can do like I'm in like the Massachusetts area, so you can just do that on any Saturday in the winter. Just cross country ski down your road. Like there were days where we almost had to cross country ski to school. Like, who would pay to do that? That's miserable.
true.
Exactly.
But Nikki, then I have a follow-up question to you for that. Who would pay these people to spend 8 hours and do what they did? I mean, obviously Chris
If
did.
the price is negotiable, I would.
I mean,
Price is negotiable.
I would personally rather do their experience with a level 5. I personally know for a fact I can't go 8 hours, and I'm okay with that.
I can't do anything for 8 hours. After 2 hours, I need to go to the bathroom.
How do you? Oh,
How-
you go to the bathroom.
How long?
Can I just personally ask one of our channel editors to clip that section out so we can use it out of context at a later point? Thank you.
I can do one thing for 8 hours if I was given the chance.
And that part too.
And we'll leave that one alone. So who would pay these people? Yeah, obviously Melissa did. Gina, I have no doubt you would too. You're one of my favorite people in the world. She'll be joining us to go over what she does behind with ghosts here eventually. So now I heard Megan and Carly had a question. You guys said something about time or something after I brought up I knew I couldn't go 8 hours.
We were like, we think you could, but
Well, how do you do it?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of people that go in that they're like, oh, I don't know if I'll last, and they last a lot longer than they expected. So I think everybody can do this. I firmly believe that every single person can do this. It's just whether or not they're willing to try.
It's their mindset going in.
Well, besides the fact you guys have possibly one more show, which is heartbreaking as hell. Which we're all hoping that continues because, like I said, Utah's not too far away. I want to take my son for his first real experience, and I would put him through it at level 1, and I'll go through it at level 5, so he could spend the whole time laughing at Dad getting drug off to do scary shit.
That itself may scare him. That might traumatize him, though. Seeing his father go through it may be scarier than him going through it himself.
No, he would ask for the spider to put it on me to watch me shit myself.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, like he's watched,
You got a good kid there.
Elvis. He's watched, some of the original McCamey stuff, and he's like, "Dad, I want to do that to you." So,
wow. What did you do to him, Matty? Jeez.
I can't legally answer that online. So, okay, how did you guys get to
No, thank you.
Krusebel?
I mean, it all kind of started probably 3 years ago, I would say.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years ago, where Castle of Chaos was like, all right, we already do like the levels of fear where we touch them and we kind of move them around, but it's like we're trying to advance to a little bit more pressuring situations. And that's when we called it level 5, which is still currently a thing that goes on. It's a little bit different than what it used to be, but it's currently still a thing. And that's kind of where those things started to happen. And Carly and I were actually one of the first people to go through it.
Beta testers.
We were one of the beta testers of that show. And oh, dear God. It is a baby compared to what we do now, but it like lighted a fire under everybody's ass that was like, this is something different and could potentially be amazing. And that's kind of where that started, I think.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of what she said and elaborate a little further. So we actually had a creator that's not around anymore. His name is Chris as well, but Chris, not to be confused with this Chris. Who we love and adore. He's one of our best friends. But he had life stuff that he had to step away from when we started it. So he and James kind of originally were playing with the idea of getting into extreme haunting or extreme immersive experiences. And they were looking for kind of our veteran actors and our veteran management to kind of help them spearhead it. And Nicholas Justice, who's also one of our management that's in the chat, he has been a big part of it too, just kind of keeping us in line with stuff that would be safe and kind of adding to the psychological horror part of it as well. Yeah, he's crazy. You want to talk crazy as fuck? This guy's, shout out to Justice. So, but yeah, we kind of came together and we had already done all the way up to level 4, and people were still asking us for more. And so we're like, okay, we've seen what's been done with McCamey Manor. We don't really dig a lot of the things that happened with it. And also we don't want to like actually kill people. We kind of like our freedom. So we'd like to do things that are right up on that line, but not quite over it. And
for anyone who doesn't know, killing is bad.
It is. It is bad.
If caught.
Yes, true.
It's one of the worst crimes.
If caught.
I mean, not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not, Yeah, so we found out that there was people that, like to take it even further than the levels that we had taken, including, adult themes, adult language, much more violence, a higher level of violence that's involved than the level 4. And a lot more psychological trauma, which I think we have slowly started to achieve that. So that's kind of where the Krusebel was born. We just kind of needed to think of a cooler name than level 5.
Yeah. And
Chris, the original Chris, actually came up with the name the Krusebel. So again, shout out to Chris. We love you. So yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So you guys said you started in the haunt community. Was it something that drew you to it, or was it just like oh, let's try this, and then it really kind of clicked? Or were you drawn to the horror community itself?
I mean, I would say that altogether for me as a person, when I was a kid, my dad would show me spooky shit, and he thought it was hilarious every single time I got scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
But growing up, I wasn't as interested in it until I turned like 13, and then all of a sudden I was. And then I would like the Saw franchise is my favorite, just because I'm so thirsty for destruction.
Yeah.
And I guess when I kind of started to see where Castle was going with their intensity levels and how it was happening, I was like, this is the thirstiness. This is what's going to quench me.
Wait, so does that make you a vampire because the thirst is real?
If I were a vampire, I wouldn't tell you.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm a vampire and I mention it every week, so it's like Mandalorians. Not all vampires have to live in the shadows, people. I wanted to ask you though, is part of it like liking to watch, like seeing other people's reactions? Because I'm not the biggest horror fan in the world. It doesn't really like scare me the most. And when I'm referring to like movies and TV shows. But that's just more because those things don't scare me. But I love watching, like with my dad, I love watching horror movies or gore with him because he reacts in a way that's just, he's like, oh, no, the guy's cutting his eye out. I just love watching other people get freaked out. Is that part of what it is for you guys?
I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like feeling disgusted too. I love it.
Oh, disgusted. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, for me, it's talking about like haunting is kind of like my positive drug. And the first time you get that like legit scare and you get the genuine scream, it's a booster in the drug. You're just like,
drugs are bad too, kids. Screams are better than drugs.
Yeah.
See, look at that. It's like a breath of fresh air. We'll do it again. We got another scream there too. Even Tom Cruise screams.
That one didn't get me going as much as the other one, Nikki. So play the good ones. Play the ones we like.
I got one more. There you go.
That's
Classic.
the Roheim scream. I learned about it in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to college. You one-upped me. Again. Overachievers over here.
Very cool. So, okay, you guys said you started the psychological aspect into the Crucible. Was that something that had to happen, or did you think it was going to help push what you had already done? Or did you feel it evolving into that?
I will answer that for you guys. So, yeah. When we first started the Crucible, we did a serial killer theme, and it was extremely endurance and physical based. Like I would say about 97% physical.
Oof.
And it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was really tough for people to get through, and we felt like we had accomplished a higher level of kind of where we wanted to be at with the physical stuff that we were going to add in. But,
It's a great name for it too. The Crucible. Yeah. I mean, that just sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we also felt that since we didn't really want to be the next McKamey Manor, we didn't really want to be involved in, hey, we're just here to basically beat the shit out of you and make you break. We wanted there to be a lead up to you breaking, or we wanted there to be a reason why, you eventually broke, and psychological just naturally comes into that. Psychology and using kind of perspective and maybe even a little bit of the things from your past against you is going to be a lot more effective than just 8 hours of us, putting you through the ringer, because we feel like not really everybody can do that. You know what I mean? Like even veteran haunters, you can do something for long enough and will break eventually, so we don't feel accomplished when we do that. We feel more accomplished when it's a happy medium of psychological and physical.
Well,
That
I
makes
think
sense.
I think it started to really transform for us when we were like the Israeli group has been running for a while, but it clicked when we heard that people were changing things about their lives and that they had come to terms with something, and it's because of what we were willing to expose out of them through this rigorous and pushing them to being vulnerable to deal with problems essentially, and that's
So it can be therapeutic.
exactly
It's cathartic.
Yeah.
cathartic. So
Nice.
when that started to happen, like we all just looked at each other and we're like, holy fuck, like, oh, I mean, am I allowed to say bad words? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've said worse.
Oh
We're
yeah,
good.
yeah. I guess that's my dumbass fault. I should admit it. Yeah. You are more than welcome to cuss here. We're all grown ups. Obviously, we're talking.
I mean, mostly all of us. I mean,
haunted house / extreme haunt. So
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure.
I am grown.
Yeah, we all just kind of looked at each other and were like, holy fuck, like this might be actually like helping people, and that's kind of where we had the overdrive. Where we're like, all right, we need to learn like how we can better help people while also making them break.
It kind of naturally happened on its own on things, because there's things that people come in and then they have their experience with us when they leave, or they tell us like, oh, I experienced this, that, and the other. We're like, we didn't even like talk about that. We didn't even know that was about you, but you had this full change in your reality.
Yeah. I mean, I'd want to do it just for the sheer curiosity behind it. Like, I'm curious to see like how deep you guys get. I hear you guys get really deep and like you investigate the person, finds out what scares them. I'm just curious of what you would find out about me, like what you would use against me. That's kind of the most like intriguing part about it for me.
Things you don't even know is what you would find out.
I don't know most things. I'd probably find out what sliding in DMs mean. I mean, talk about horrifying.
Yeah, as much as we like to do research on people and kind of get into their heads, it's also, just like they've said, it's been kind of a surprise to us. Like sometimes people will come out and they'll be like, you guys taught me this and I got strength from this aspect of it, and we're like, oh, that's awesome. That was completely unintentional, but if that's what it did for you, then
amazing
awesome,
Yeah.
So people feel like they go through a real like experience here, like where like they come out like feeling like battle hardened from it and like stronger because they were able to get through something like this. Yeah, I could see that. I could see myself doing that.
Cool.
So okay, Chris, I want to bounce to you on that question. Obviously, you just came back from it. The day you told me you were going, I was extremely excited for you because I know you've been looking forward to it. Was Krusebel everything you wanted it to be?
Oh, it was so much more. It was so much more. Every day since, like, more and more I think about it, it's like what I expected and what I got were totally different. It was probably one of the greatest weekends when it comes to haunt-related stuff that I've ever had. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. I couldn't ask for a better experience. And Chase and his team, all the actors, I mean, it's top-notch. Like, it's run so professional. I can't push it enough. Like, they know what they are doing. They know how to get to you. And it seems like chaos. It seems crazy. And afterwards, when you see how it's done, how well planned and organized it is, it's like, just mind-blowing. Like, these guys are the real deal.
Aww.
Thanks,
I'm
Chris.
I want to bring up one quick thing real quick. Chris, you told me offline, and Chase and his team have agreed to it. Explain to me why at the end of 8 hours you were coming out so hot. Because you told me that they were warning everybody because they bring you out, not as one group, but individually. What was going through your mind when you got to that point? And then, Chase, I want you to explain what you thought was going on at that moment.
Can I talk about how it was a personal thing, Chase? Like, without giving away anything? All right, so let me say this.
Yeah.
It was done very personal, which I didn't really expect. And I was no longer in a haunted attraction in my head. I was in an insane asylum. And there was a breaking moment where me and Chase locked eyes, and he was my target that I was getting past. Like, that was my whole goal, was that I was going to complete this just to piss him off. And from that point on, me and him, whenever we had any type of interaction, it was very hostile. It was very much me going off on him, trying to piss him off, and him just coming at me full force. So everybody's being brought out, and he comes and gets me, and like I was just unloading, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, it's the end. It was like, holy cow. Like, it was just, I mean, you had to be there to really get it. But yeah, I don't think have you ever had a person as hostile as I was being at that point?
For different reasons, yes.
They had to answer that very carefully.
Yeah, we have had people that have been that hostile, but it was I'll say it's more for a physical aspect than a psychological aspect that we used on you.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear our end of it,
I remember watching Chris.
Yeah.
As this was happening, and I was like, "This is beautiful."
This is beautiful.
I have a question.
Sorry, what?
I have a question. Do you ever do, and this is just more personally for me, if I were to do something like this, do you ever do like custom scenarios for people? So if somebody says, like, comes to you and says, I want this, and this to happen, like almost like a immersive like role playing experience where they describe to you a scenario they'd like to overcome, and then you guys like do it, or is it more you do research and then you compile something for that individual?
Kind of none of the above. We haven't done what you just described. We haven't like, hey, what would you guys like to be involved in and do the show around it?
I think it's because we have too many like things up our sleeve, you know. Where
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody were to request like a scenario that's a lot different than somebody saying like, hey, I have this in my past, this problem here, this, that, and then we can move in and make something that's immersive to the themes that would then we could use.
Yeah.
Better
It's just the word like the asylum that Chris said like triggered me. I'm like, ooh, he felt like he was in asylum, like so like he felt like he was playing like an Arkham game. That like sounds wicked to me. But either way, it sounds awesome. It's just one of those things that I thought, like, has anybody ever done that, or like is that something you guys would consider doing? Because it seems like you guys are really creative at coming up with stuff.
Yeah. The more open you are to the experience, the more you let your walls down, the better experience you're gonna have, because then you know more. But if you give us a scenario that you want to experience, with an expectation and thinking this is what's gonna happen. If you go in with nothing to expect, you're gonna get so much more out of it.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So we kind of do it in reverse from what you said. So we usually will kind of come up with a theme that we think will be unique and experience. And then we kind of build the experience around it and then add in people's fears and their history and stuff like that. So that's how we kind of do
more of a surprise than like something that's choreographed out by the person. Yeah. That would be a lot scarier for sure.
Yeah, we have shows coming up that will be probably a little more scripted and have some things that are planned out. A lot of our shows so far have been almost all improv. Like we just kind of go off what the characters are interacting with the participants and vice versa. So
which is something that we never intend to let go of. You know, is off the cuffs, because there's a lot of ideas. We've had experiences with scripted bits. We've had experiences with all that stuff, but no matter what, things that happen that just happen become beautiful moments. Yeah. So I think it's safe to say that we'll never be a fully scripted show.
And that gives you a way to like do what you want at that time, like have fun with it, like explore your interests as well as the other person's. It seems like a fun like experience all around. Chris seems like he's glad that he did it.
It's
just
really
makes me all the more curious.
Yeah, it's really fun for us. We've had, and I'll let her finish, but we've had experiences where we'll like come into the room and all of a sudden we're like, okay, this just happened. We're like, what are we gonna do? You know, and we all kind of work as a
shit
team and
surprises
collaborate.
me stuff
Yeah.
that customers do. I just
Ideas.
go, whoa, good thing I have a character that can respond to this.
What were you gonna say?
So Castle of Chaos, where we all like, that's the base of our experience, is we have such a big like improv base on it and training that over the years we've just all naturally have perfected, and all the actors have that in their back too. So we will never be like 100% scripted. This is how it is, because the portion can create such uniqueness to it.
I mean, all our cast has at least 5 years of
Or more.
or
Yeah.
more.
Have you ever done comedic improv? Well, like just curious about like your backgrounds as far as improv goes, because the improv thing really makes me curious too.
As far as like being a comedian, no.
Yeah.
I think we're all just funny people,
Yeah.
but we don't like. If I were to step on like a stage and tried to be funny, I would totally tank. 'Cause,
Same.
Yeah.
Like
Every time you hear improv, you think comedic improv, but like it would be funny if like there were more horror improv groups, like that would just like people get together trying to scare each other rather than trying to make each other laugh. It gets my mind like thinking about different things and like
that's working out.
Yeah, that's a haunted house for you.
yeah.
I was gonna say that sounds like a haunted house to me.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, I personally love humor, and I love comedians, and stand-up is something that we really enjoy. In fact, we go out on a lot of dates to comedy clubs and stuff. And some of my friends and I have kind of joked about doing stand-up just for fun, because I have a lot of friends that are really good storytellers, especially like comedic stories. So I can see where you're coming from, but we haven't really like wanted to.
It takes the same skill set, I think. Like Jordan Peele's getting into like most of the stuff he does now is horror, and he's a very comedic background. I'm just coming at it from like a film perspective, but like he's doing both. So I think it takes like the same skill set. It's just more about like what more you gravitate towards, and like horror, but like that always interests me. Like that people that like improvise and that are comedic can go to such a dark place, because it takes that dark place to like joke about it.
Well, Nikki, and it's funny you said that, because like they were talking about Justice earlier. He says on the note of comedic, I have a professional comedic improv experience and used it to tilt some of my characters in the Crucible show.
Yeah. Well, we share a name, and his last name's Justice. My first name's Nicholas. His last name's Justice. His name's Nicholas Justice. I love my name and I love justice. So, I mean, you got to go with what he says. I don't think you can really question that.
I mean, like I said earlier, Nick Justice is an absolute madman, and I saw him just last weekend do some things that I could not handle that I was doing. And
Justice for all.
And I like how Chris isn't saying a single thing to that.
They were absolutely and I was so proud, because I was like, "This is amazing! I can't believe that I did it."
So Kat in the chat has a question for you guys. Are there any group scenes with the contestants, or are they all solo? If you guys can answer that.
That's the actor.
Every time I hear solo, I have to do that.
Right. So yes, there are group scenes and solo scenes, and that's because we want to give a chance for the participants to interact with each other. We actually, so some of our veterans that had been to the asylum before and done another show with us actually mentioned that a crazy part of what we did was being used against each other. So we used information against them, and they had to make decisions based off of the information that was used. So that's kind of where the group sessions come in. And then we also want to make sure that we provide you with solo experiences, because going through things alone is usually 10 times more scary than doing it with a team or a group, right? So we wanted to kind of have both of those dynamics play into each other. So there are group scenes and solo scenes as well.
And it's interesting too, just as a side note, when all the different groups that we see go through, you never know who like you're gonna be paired up with, and so it can change your experience based on who's there with you.
So I wanted to ask that, Chris, what was more difficult for you, interacting with just the actors, or when you were all to group and you guys kind of could play off of each other?
You can't really. I mean,
What's
everything. I couldn't tell you what was more horrible. I mean, there's something horrible about the whole thing. So it's like so when you're with a group, you have somebody that you can look at and be like, that just happened. We've been through that together. And when you're alone, then you got yourself a nice little secret that you just don't want to share with anybody because of what happened.
Yeah, because I did an experience where we started out individually and then we came together as a group, but it was kind of where, either I'm going to do this to you and you can take this, or I'm going to make you pick somebody else. And to me, that was some of the most terrifying part because, you're beating up on me and I could have a break, but I'm giving them a break. Maybe they'll do the same thing to me. And that's where the psychological part hits me the hardest, is because I'm one of these people, I would rather take the punishment because I don't like to see other people get hurt. But that gets to my breaking point. After a while, I've had to tap because I'm to the point of physically exhaustion, but I don't want to see somebody else take it. So
let's just say this. In the Crucible, you find out who you really are.
Yeah, I like that.
If you're open to it, you will.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, is that we've had so many participants so far. There's some that are fully willing to open themselves up, even if they think they're not. They deep down are. And then there's other people that just won't. Yeah. And they will not let you get in. And it's like, you are only going to get out of this what you choose to get out of this.
Yeah.
So it's.
I want to do it.
Being willing,
Yeah, you can. That's one thing that I would say to those that haven't maybe done an immersive experience, like an extreme immersive horror experience before, or if they want to try an extreme haunt or get into it, is do what Chris does. Allow yourself to be in the moment and to feel that fear, because this is not, and I think most of the people in the horror community that go through these haunts will agree, this is not about being a badass. This is not where you prove that you're a badass. This is where you kind of challenge yourself internally and externally, and allow yourself to be involved in a story that is truly like living out your own horror movie.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't know. With some of the other haunts, it seems like, well, I'm gonna beat everybody, or I'm gonna be the one that completes this at whatever level or whatnot, right? Like, that's cool and all, but the point is, did you have an experience and did you learn something from it, and did you get something out of it? That's what we're all about.
Yeah. And something else I want to say to somebody who's thinking about doing something like this: don't fight. If they're going to pull you around, if they're going to drag you around, go dummy and let them do what they're going to do. Because if you fight, that's where injuries happen. That's where people hurt. I was in a show once where somebody started fighting. Basically, they took him by the shirt and wanted to drag them, and they had a snake in their hand. And that person freaked out, and somebody got
snake in my boot.
Well, somebody got hurt. They ended up with a concussion and had to stop the show to get them out. So if you're going to do this, Castle's a great way to step into it, because they have what is known as the 5 levels of fear in just their regular show. You can, you go, well, I want to, maybe go and be moved around a little bit. So start at a level 3, maybe a level 4. And don't go, well, I'm going to go straight into level 10, and you jump head first into it. And 20 minutes into the experience, you can't do that, and then you quit and you don't get the experience. So I would recommend slowly building up to something like this. Would you guys agree to that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because safety is always a major concern. Like, it's really nice that there's 3 of us that run this, because each and every one of us can get ideas that just start to go rampant, and I have to go, Chase, that might not be safe. Or I'm like, let's
That's not
do this.
legitimately okay.
Let's do this. Let's do this, and
I
then
mean, Jimmy Fallon always says safety is sexy.
what?
Jimmy Fallon always says safety is sexy.
Yeah. Well, and so
Very
we
sexy.
put a lot of time, and there's so many things that we have to keep in the forefront of our brains during that whole 8 hours,
We're tired too.
just to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about like our team of actors too is even they'll call us on stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if we're just like Megan mentioned,
Yeah.
like we get tired too, and sometimes we get a little bit of brain fog, or we get to a point where like we might not be in the right mindset, and we'll have one of our actors come up to us and be like, "Hey, like I think that could cause this problem, or I think that might be a little too far, or this, that, and the other," and we take their feedback. You know.
It's
Yeah.
just that we all work so well together, and I think it's also because we have a cast that I completely trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they're all very smart, and they all like they care about this, so they're not inclined to just fuck around.
Yeah.
You know,
Agreed.
so I love them. I
Yeah.
think that they're really great at being a team and also just like communicating with us.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
Okay. Has there ever
Is
been?
it time for a weekly question?
Yeah. Go ahead, Nikki. I can.
All right, so since Caleb isn't here to ask, Porgs, friends or food? Maddie's son always likes to ask this question. Porgs, are they friends? Are they food? Are they cuddly creatures that you want to take as pets? Or will you roast them over a fire and eat them?
I'm gonna.
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both is a perfectly acceptable answer.
I would say both as well. Those Porgs look delicious, but I mean, come on. I love this thing.
I mean, I eat chickens, and I wouldn't mind one as
Yeah.
a pet. So
I would too. I used to have chickens in my backyard, and I eat chicken all the time.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. That's absolutely. My 10-year-old
That was towards me, not you.
who does this show with us. This one wasn't for him. Plus, it's a school night. He also has a second question. What is something? And Chris, you're going to answer this too. What is something about you guys that the average people? You know, you've got fans of the Krusebel and so forth. What is something about you that most people don't know? It could be anything.
That is a really good question. I mean that gets really deep, honestly.
Well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. I mean, Nikki.
Nobody knows how much I enjoy cute and soft things, and how much I talk like all the time. I go, oh, I need my banky. I call it a banky.
Yeah.
Or my babe, I call it my banky. It's not like a weird.
It's cute and soft.
It's
That's
just
funny.
I'm a cutie pie, and nobody knows that.
There you go.
Nice.
I don't know if I have anything unique besides haunting.
Chase is like, I got plenty. I got you.
I'm weird. I'm a weird person.
No way. You guys run an extreme terror experience.
I know.
No way. There's
Hey,
the
the freaks are more
shocker.
fun. That's what they always say. I don't know who they are, but somebody says that.
I'm an only child. I don't know. That's kind of unique, I guess. I don't have any biological brothers or sisters, so.
I mean, I can say one about you, Chase.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
Chase, one of my favorite things about Chase is that he has such an appreciation for learning about new music.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love music. Music
And
is a big part of my life.
Carly also is the best car headbanger I've ever.
Oh my god.
So I
There
answered
you go.
for all three.
Yeah.
I'm so cute. She headbangs to EDM.
There you go. And then Chris has got his head up his phone.
I was in some cheesy horror movies.
All right,
Ooh,
can you pick
okay.
names so we can find them, bring you back, and do like?
I don't know if you'll be able to find them. I found them at like Best Buy like
Challenge
once, and
accepted.
every now and then on
Oh,
Showtime.
so they're at the dumpster lot now with the rest of the stuff from Best Buy.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Devin's been digging through dumpsters for like new computers.
I was in a movie called They Must Eat, and the other one was called The Remake.
The
Okay,
remake.
well, if we find those, we
Yeah.
need
That
to
could be
take a look
hard
at
because there's a lot of remakes out there.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Matty.
That one's going to be a hard one to find.
Okay, Nikki, there's your job. You need to find us all of those, and we
Okay.
can do it.
So what was the first one? I'm finding them.
They must eat. That one's easy to find.
Shameless Deep?
Eat. EAT.
Shameless Eat.
They must eat.
Oh, they must eat. I thought you said Fameless Feet. I'm like, is this
Feet.
a Tarantino
No,
movie?
that's a whole different movie.
Giggity right there. This is the wrong kind of show to talk about feet like that, guys.
All right, dude, I can't do giggity and search for things at the same time. So one at a time.
Giggity.
We're all gonna have wiki feet pages by the end of it.
All right, they must eat, and then the other one was remake.
Yeah, the remake.
All right, we will find those.
Okay.
All right, so
I was about to say, Aaron, you're being unusually quiet. I don't.
no. It's more just I don't want to interrupt anyone. This is this is Nikki. Right as I said, I don't want to be interrupted.
You said you don't want to interrupt anyone. You didn't say you didn't want to be interrupted.
So let me phrase a question to you guys from a bit of a different perspective. So I live in Orlando, Florida, which is a very commercial area and is known for a lot of commercial horror things. We have stuff that goes year-round, like public schools, and we have some things that are seasonal, like Halloween Horror Nights, which is a very famous thing that Universal puts on every year. Halloween Horror Nights is something that is very seemingly adrenaline-based. It's the idea that you're going into a few-minute haunted house, and you know what you're walking into, and you don't know necessarily what corner the scare will be at, but you know what it's going to be. It's going to be some variation of someone's going to jump around with some object in their hand, and there's going to be a loud noise and a flash, and it's just going to keep your adrenaline up and make you jump. So when you compare the commercial stuff like that a lot of people generally experience versus something a lot more deeper and psychological that you guys seem to put on, how would you compare that experience, and like what would you say to someone to prep them going in? Like if they come to you and say, oh well, I've done Halloween Horror Nights for the last 15 years but I've never done something like this, what would you recommend to them? What would you prep them for walking into your place? Because it sounds like even the most basic things are far more intense than anything you'd ever get at a theme park.
So I think probably what immediately came to my mind when you compared, you brought up Halloween Horror Nights, and maybe even any other haunt ever, they're very short, right? Crucible being long means that us actors, we have to seriously pace ourselves. During any sort of opening scenes or anything like that, we're not jumping off the walls. We're not screaming at you. We're not doing that stuff because it's so long, and we need to keep our stamina just as much as you guys do. So it's much more of like a demeanor versus just utter chaos, because you only have 30 seconds with this customer right now. We have 8 hours with you. We can take as much time as we want. We can yell when we want. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, I think that's what sticks out to me. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, I would kind of piggyback on what Megan just said, because to me, going to Hollywood Horror Nights or going to a seasonal haunted house, you're kind of in the climax, right? Like you're immediately in the climax of your horror movie. And you're going to get those jump scares and stuff like that. With extreme immersive experiences, it's a slow build up.
Slow burn.
It's a slow burn. Exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. So you may be expecting to go in there and get, immediately terrified and that there's going to be people jumping out of you and whatever, you kind of expect with those haunts. And you may go in and it may be quiet and calm to the point where that is scary, right? Yeah. You're just like, okay, when is it going to happen? Or like, what is going to happen?
I heard today that music is the silence between notes. And like, that's the scariest thing, is the silence, especially like if you're like somehow like sensory deprived, is that in between that nothing happens. This is the scariest part, because you're thinking of all the things that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the scariest things is the unknown, right? Because if you already know what's out there, then that's one thing. But if it's completely unknown, then that's another. And waiting, believe it or not, can be scary. Anticipating waiting can be extremely terrifying. So
that's why I pretend to know everything.
I remember
flash shows specifically, I would, I'd occasionally go over by the room to check on them. And I went in and I heard them talking beforehand. As soon as I went in, they all of a sudden were quiet. Some of them would make eye contact, some of them wouldn't. And it's interesting to see the change of the person throughout the night on how they go, on how they talk, and then all of a sudden it gets quiet. You don't hear anything, but you can almost see what they're experiencing or flashing back to.
Oh, even just somebody the feeling of being stared at is a very powerful thing. And that was probably the thing I realized last time the most. It's just eyeballs are freaky.
The gateway to the soul. So
yeah. So there's so many. That's kind of another thing that's different about walking like normal haunts and things like that, is that there is minimal, if not zero, time for details.
Yep. Yeah.
Versus when we're in a situation like this, we can make a scene as detailed as we want or as we don't want. It just kind of depends to how you want to contour how this is going to go for them.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So in normal haunts and stuff, the detail is typically in the sets, right? In the sets and the makeup and the that kind of thing. With our training, we kind of have to train people to put all of that grandeur into yourself, right? So the trick is they have to believe that I am no longer, Chase that they might have met a couple of hours ago. I'm now, the crazy, insane asylum doctor, because if they don't believe that, then they're never going to be fully immersed. So going back to, I think what you guys mentioned a little while ago, I encourage people, and I know they do a lot of kind of method acting sort of practices.
Oh God.
And it's hard because Heath Ledger comes to mind. He's one of the people that I really look up to, and it makes me really upset that he's gone, because I to a point know what he was talking about when he was describing things in his journals about how he had to go to a dark place and he kind of had to take on those emotions and personify them, because that's kind of what you have to do in an immersive experience. I don't know, some of the greats that have come before us, like Miasma, Blackout, all those guys, I haven't had a chance to talk to them about how much they do that, but I know that that's something that's very important to me and very important to a lot of our cast to do.
Despite the tragedy of Heath Ledger, I think journals, as far as like method acting go, I think that's the way to do it, because from what I hear, like from like people who are on set, like Michael Jai White had an interview a few months ago where he said that like Heath, like there's a lot of misconceptions about how Heath would stay full in character. His method was him going to the dark places in like hotel rooms in solitude, and not so much as the Jared Leto was, where he was sending dead rats to Margot Robbie's house and bullet casings to Will Smith's house, whereas like he kept that stuff to himself. He was method about it. He would get method about it, but he wouldn't allow that to like hurt anybody else. So, but like, I just thought that was interesting, because there's a lot of ways to do method. It seems like you guys are doing it the right way.
Carly probably 3 times called me by my character name within the first, 3 days before Krusebel.
Oh wow!
Did I? Yeah, you did.
Quick question from the chat. They want to know, if you enter at a level 7, can you move up if you want during the experience?
Opposite.
Nope.
Opposite. You can only move down. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, once you're at 7, and if anything happens, then you're kind of done, man.
Yeah. And there's. Go ahead. You're good.
I was just gonna say, like, if you're going in at a 7, like, and you want to increase more, then you should, like, the waiver is pretty decent to explain like kind of the different things that may go on, and if you want to go up, then at that point that's when you need to decide it. But if you like, I've told a couple people this, like they come in at a 10 and they're like, well, but can I go down levels? I'm like, yeah, but if you come in at a 10, do you want to leave it at 7?
Yeah.
You really want that on you.
Yeah.
The other thing too, and I'll say this about a 7. 7 is recommended for if you're dabbling in this thing, right? If you've never done it before and you want to see if you might be able to survive at a higher level, 7 is where you want to go. The other levels are literally meant as a step up, right? So 10 is like that's you looking at us and saying, I want to go balls to the wall, do everything, like throw everything you got at me, right? 9 is a slight step down from that. It's not very far, to be honest. And I think Chris will agree, going through the experience. Level 8 is kind of like a middle ground. Like you're going to get a lot of the psychological and horror adventure side of it, but you're still going to get quite a lot of physicality and psychological horror with it. And 7 is kind of more like, okay, I want to be involved in the story and I want to see like what happens and the lore behind it and stuff, but don't hurt me too badly. You know what I mean?
If you're hesitant to go, then Spirit is always come back. Like we're planning on changing our story every now and then. We don't really have like a set schedule on it, but then it gives you an opportunity to come back. Then you know what? I'm gonna try on this story. What level can I get to this one?
Yeah.
I think it's important that, because I saw in the chat earlier some of the participants from last weekend, they were like, I'm going to go in at a 7 again. And I was like, please don't go in at a 7 again.
Mm-hmm.
Go in higher because you've been here before. Go in at an 8 because you've been here before. I want you to, because you could push yourself. Push yourself. This is what this is about.
Yeah, I would almost say that you do yourself a disservice if you go in at the same level that you went in before, unless you're really that like apprehensive and scared about it. And if you didn't make it like in level 7 or whatever, then maybe. But yeah, I don't think I would ever recommend doing it at the same level that you started with.
Okay. Go ahead, Aaron. You said you had another thing you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I'll have to take off a little early, but I had one more question. So one of the things you guys have talked about multiple times with this is, obviously a lot of what you're doing is improv and on the moment, and it's, creating the scenario based off of what you're being given by the person that you're working with to scare. But you also talked about the fact that few things are planned and there is a story to what you guys are doing. Because we are, mainly most of the time a movie show, I thought I'd tie it in there a little bit. When you guys were maybe growing up or when you were first getting into doing this type of thing, what are some of the movies that inspired you guys the most? What are some of the movies where, whether it be the way they did horror or the story they told with the horror, inspired you to kind of look at something like The Krusebel and go, I can do this as well, but to a real person live and get that same effect that the movie could possibly get and more?
I think we take, if we're talking movies, like we take things from movies constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Us three, that's what we do. We watch movies together all the time, and
It could be a comedy.
It could be a comedy. We go, whoa, wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? But I think we take. I mean, for me, I grew up on the Saw movies. Mm-hmm. Those traps were absolutely insane, and it brought us to start exploring. Hey, well, what could we make with our hands?
Yeah, the Saw series is inspirational to all three of us. I know that for a fact.
That's where I go, like, when I'm talking about, like, laughing at other people, like, watching that. Like, those movies don't scare me, but I love watching people that get squeamish, like, get freaked out by those movies. It's just like, you're scared.
I get so grossed out by so much. Like, it is insane. Like, I think it's really weird that I'm into this stuff because I'm adorable and I get grossed out, but at the same time, bloodthirsty demon inside of me that loves it.
I'm sure we all have that little bit of dark side to us, though. I mean, okay.
A little bit?
Well, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I mean, my shadow may be a little bit darker than anybody else. I mean, we are movie trivia league at points, and I do, use the the Firefly family from my strengths, but that's just me. Okay, somebody else had a question in the chat. How many actors do you guys have at one of your Crucible shows? Are you guys very limited, or do you have different characters for different scenes and kind of have the actors go along through the show with people?
Angela, I know exactly why you're asking that question, and we love you, but we are going to decline to answer that because we don't want you to know how many actors we have, because that is a way to kind of break immersion. And we work a lot with. I'll just say this. We're gonna plead the fifth on that. We're not gonna.
I kind of figured that one, but I saw a couple of people kind of point in that direction, so I'm like, well, I'm sure they're gonna decline it. But has there ever been a scene or somebody acting out a scene where you kind of have to step back and just be mesmerized by the interaction between not just the actors but the way people are acting? And I see Megan's got something in mind.
Oh my
Every
God.
damn day, man. I wish we could be a
show.
fly on the wall for everybody's
And
experience.
it's
That's
more
what's
than
hard. That's what's really hard about being directors of this show is that we have stuff that we do because, we're in charge and we have responsibilities. If we were in charge and we didn't have our own tasks or our own places to be, I think that's what we would love to do. However, we also love having things to do. So I think that's what's really hard is I have so many things I'm thinking about, but I'm not going to kill those things.
There's
Nick Justice.
It's not just Nick. There's throughout the whole time, like
Chase gets me all the time.
Yeah, there's different points in different shows where there's certain things that we just behind scenes talk to each other about what we've experienced in our rooms or a scene that they were a part of or anything like that. And if we come up with something like totally improv, like there was this one thing that we did in the last show that was like, well, we were planning on this one thing and then we just took it 3 steps further night of the show. And it's moments like that where it's just the best moments to see. And we have to like keep a straight face in front of customers. Like, this isn't funny. This is serious. But inside, we're just cackling on how they react or how like well those people just did that scene.
Yeah. Well, that's another beautiful thing about it too is that for me personally, I know other people feel a little bit differently about this, but if I see something funny happen, I think my character would laugh too.
Yeah, a big part of my kind of work and career life that I enjoy is coaching people and allowing them to learn from my past experiences or past experiences that maybe the company has gone through. So that's a big reason why I think I enjoyed stepping into the acting coach version of things and the directing role, is because I love those moments where like you've got somebody that may be brand new or that may be unsure of themselves. Hey, Kayla. Shout out to Kayla.
As you can tell, I monitor the chat and I'm like, oh, that's a new face I haven't seen yet. So let's pop that up. And then your guys' reactions were priceless. Just going back to that, just to finish the thought. I really love seeing those aha moments or those light bulb moments, or when like actors just start going off the cuff, and sometimes I'll look at them and I'll be like, damn, keep going. Like, don't let me stop you. I'm like, you're on a roll. Keep it up. So
I know there was a scene because we were talking about the show. There was a scene that we were doing to Chris, and Megan just had to walk in on it, and she's like, you know what? I need to start recording now. And she just was like, this is just pure gold. And Chris, you know what we're talking about.
No, you're muted, buddy.
You're muted.
I think you're thinking of Eli.
No. Was it?
I don't have any.
Give me a time frame of when that was, because there was many moments that I think I had.
I love you too, Kayla.
There were parts. No, because I don't have any videos of Chris on my
same
phone.
Spot, different person.
It was the same spot. It was Eli.
Yeah.
It was Eli. But however,
watching, she'll know.
One time I did see Chris escape from a certain person.
I love how she uses the word escape.
I saw him be released from a certain person. And all I could see was Chris slowly melt to the ground.
I think it just dawned on him.
Like Chris joined the chat.
So, Chris, I know you can't really go into detail on that, but was that a sigh of relief moment?
No.
I feel like the sigh came when they opened the door and said, "You're done."
There was, yeah. That's when the relief came. Was at the end of the.
Look up behind you. It's still
the
there.
time. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was. I don't think I can say that was a sigh of relief. I think it was more of a processing.
Well, the
And
funny
just
part
thinking
is
what
that
just
out
happened.
of all of our cast, Carly and I are the only ones that have been through an experience.
Yeah.
As far as, what Crucible is and what it has been before. So that's kind of what I love hearing. I love how, because when I did my first experience, I wasn't able to participate until I was in the show, or when I wasn't able to be a part of that cast until I did it. And that was kind of more of a me thing than it was like a rule thing. It was never a rule. I just wanted to do it. And Chase came up to me when I exited my final door and I knew it was over, but Chase came up to me and he tried to hug me and I said, get the fuck away.
This is before hugging was illegal.
Yeah, no, you're right.
She's thinking he's going to put a bag over my head and it's going to keep going. Nope, don't touch me.
Yeah, it was a genuine response. It wasn't like oh, you're my bud and I'm telling you to get the fuck away. It was this man with this stature just put some shit in my mouth that was awful and I don't want to see you anymore. That's what she said.
That is what she said.
I know when we went through that experience, after the show we were cleaning up, and some people know the story. I was in one of our rooms, and it's one of the rooms that we shared an experience with. And I went in there, and I was cleaning up, and I started walking out, and I was like, took a step back, took a deep breath, and I was like, this smell just like brought me back. And so I brought her in there, and I made her take a deep breath in with her eyes closed. And she's like, "Don't scare me." I was like, "I'm not gonna scare you. I want you to see this." So she took a deep breath, and she's like, "Oh, I don't like that." And I know Chris had a similar experience at dinner.
Yeah, Chris, can you tell us about that experience? Can you tell us where you were at?
Yeah, so we went out to this nice Mexican restaurant, and we're having Mexican food, and like a smell just hit me, and it was literally they put down the plate. I was so excited to eat because I had only eaten what the Crucible provided, the whole day prior.
You're welcome.
And I was so excited to eat. I had this huge burrito, and the smell hit me, and I just pushed it away. And I was like, I can't. This just took me back to a very, very sad place that I don't want to be.
And then an hour later, he ate the burrito.
No, I didn't, and I can't.
You'll never eat a burrito again.
Chris, are you still experiencing stuff like that? Kind of those non-conscious, like, oh, okay.
No, I mean, it's not like I have like PTSD from it. I'm not going to go and say that, but
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like, are there times where since it's happened? I mean, yes, it's only been 3 nights,
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things where like,
but if you had those kind of.
Yeah, so there was like today at work, I went to a certain area at my work, and it reminded me of the asylum again, and I was like, oh my god, this took me back to this place. Like, all right, never going back here again.
God damn it!
It's like you sound recorded me when I was there. I can't.
Chris, do you want to answer?
I can't.
Can you answer Kat's question?
I can't answer it.
Who knows?
I was going to say,
if I would have thought about it, I would have informed you guys of Chris's terror of chainsaws, because I'm sure that would have been because he left a friend of ours' kid child in a haunt.
How long is that gonna get brought back up? She was old enough to run on her own. Okay, so that's on her.
Tell that to the judge.
Okay, he was in an experience with what? How old was she? 16? 17?
Yeah, she was old enough to run.
Well, she was old enough. If they've been horror movies, they can. Yeah, they're good.
And Chris literally runs through the maze and leaves her by herself. I mean, you can ask everybody in the chat; they all know this story.
We're gonna make a documentary about the real Maze Runner.
Well, the thing is,
I see, Chris.
That's how you survive a horror movie. You sacrifice the weaker links, and then you survive. So
If I left my wife in a haunted house when a chainsaw came after me, I'm going to leave the random girl that I just met that night. I mean, I'm sorry.
and we all wonder why Chris has been divorced.
Oh, low blow.
No, she. Yeah. I mean, Chris left the child alone in a haunt. I'm just playing, Chris. You know we love you. Do we really though? I mean, that's old enough to run. So guys, we're kind of, I'm running out of stuff to ask. Nikki, Chris, Aaron, anybody in the chat. If you guys got questions, lay them out because I'm running out of stuff to talk about.
Do you have one more?
I had this list of stuff, and
you got through it all.
Well, they go through that. They brought that up.
Okay. I guess if we're gonna go for like one final question, what I would say is, not that you guys don't do this on a regular basis, but allow yourself to get creative. If we put rules aside for a minute and we take the obvious murder out of the equation. If there was one thing that you would want to do that you think could take an experience like what you guys put on to the absolute next level, what would you want to do?
Anything. I think this is a very open-ended question.
Yeah, like just to you, what's the thing in your mind that you go, if I could pull this off,
and you can't,
how would it take it?
You have to.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Oh, I know. So we're Saw fans, right? There is so many different we're weird people. We have these conversations. How would we make our own traps for other people? What would we do? I would want to design traps and really push them so that way it's like if they have to go through something and they get some cuts, they get some bruises, they're slightly being hung by their neck or something like that. Not like they're gonna die, but they could die. That's what I want to do. I want to push them to that level, that extreme.
I think for me, it's just pulling off. People are very, very squeamish of blood, right? However, it's very hard to pull off blood because you can always tell when blood is fake. Real blood. It might sound a little fucked up, but I'm like, how can I get real blood in this situation?
You're on a horror show. You're good.
Shit, right?
We don't want to hurt anybody, right? So I'm like, okay, well, shit. But there's just so many different rules with blood alone because even if I wanted to use blood from a different animal, that's still kind of like unsafe to a certain degree. So I think if I had to say, oh, I wish, I want blood.
Yeah, for me, it's two parts. I would agree with the blood and gore. I think it would be cool to have movie quality things happen. Like if we shoot somebody in the head, their head explodes, that kind of thing. That's a little bit above our budget.
You can always shoot a watermelon.
Right. But I would say that, and then probably I would say simulating things before they feel like they're actually in the experience and pulling it off safely. Like they get in a car accident or they have something like that happen and the whole thing is staged. Like everybody that is around them is in on it, and
like it starts before you're even in the door. Just boom, you're in once you're there.
Exactly.
Like scary.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I was gonna say, first off, I mean, what you guys have already described sounds like just a unique experience that can't be found many places. If you guys ever reach a point where you can do the things you just described, that would obviously take it to a whole next level. I was gonna say I noticed some more people put some questions in the chat, so I'm sure Matty will pull them. But I have to take off, unfortunately.
Me too,
you know,
man.
to do, on the list of things that you'd say after meeting a bunch of horror house runners, I have to take a blood test tomorrow morning. On the list of things that you would say, not say after meeting them, it was a pleasure to meet you guys. What you guys run seems incredibly unique, and I would definitely recommend that anyone who is open to the idea and is close enough to you guys experience it, or once obviously the world is in a bit of a safer place, if you can travel to experience it, definitely, because like as someone who has, like I talked about Halloween Horror Nights earlier, I've gone probably to something like that about as many years as I can at this point. And it's reached a point where like I figured out how to beat it. Like I pretty much know where to look ahead and be like, the jump's going to come there, and then it's going to come, and it's what you expect. This is literally the definition of real life horror. It sounds like you really don't know what you're going to get. Chris is nodding and staring into the distance. And yeah, I would absolutely say if you guys are in a position to do it, sign that damn NDA and go do it, because it sounds like you won't regret it, or at least mostly not regret it. Great meeting you guys. Nikki, Matty, great seeing you. Enjoy the rest of the show, guys.
And on that note, Gina brought up an interesting question. Do you guys get a lot of repeat customers? And if you do, is it normally people that have made it through or people that haven't?
It's a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah, all the above. We have a 3-person group that I mentioned before that came through Asylum Crucible last time, and we actually had a continuation of the story for them and a lot of elements that we added in. And they're what I would say kind of like the perfect participants, just because they allow themselves to immerse themselves in the situation, even though they've already kind of gotten the basis of our story that we have right now. They still allow themselves to be involved and to challenge themselves more than they did last time. And then we do definitely have repeat customers. And then we also have had plenty of mixtures of new people. Like, there's some people that are like, hey, I heard about this. I've never even been to a haunted house before, and I want to do it. And we're like, okay.
Here's what it entails.
Yeah. We've had people that have like been like, okay, I've been to a bunch of seasonal haunts, and just like Aaron said, like, I know where the scares are coming from. It's not as much of an adrenaline rush, and I need the next big thing. And so we're like, okay, well, we'll give that to you. And then we have the gamut of extreme haunters and stuff where like this is kind of a part of their life and a part of their goals, to go through stuff like this. So yeah, we get a lot of people. Yeah, I would say. So yeah.
Very cool. And then Pink's got one for you. She says, have you ever had somebody that was just totally desensitized and hard to manipulate, for lack of better words? And if so, what did you do you guys have to dig a little deeper to try and figure out what to use?
So I think it's important when somebody's not responsive. There's so many different areas and types of themes that you can go to, right? If somebody is with me or whatever, and I'm like, okay, well, this isn't quite touching them, like this isn't quite doing something, then I go, I'm just not that for that person. Let's move them somewhere else where we think that they might better suit. It happened last weekend. It went fine.
It was Chris. It was Chris.
No, Chris never saw us.
No, Chris never saw us, actually. There's stuff Chris hasn't even seen.
So he's got it back.
Yeah.
Round 2, Chris?
Come on, Chris.
Yeah, come on, Chris.
That's a fuck no right there. That's not a no. That look right there was not a no. That's an oh fuck no.
Yeah, no.
Oh, come on, Chris. I'll go with you.
That's the important part, and that's why I love our show for being so versatile, is that if somebody is technically in a place where they're like, if I'm like, this isn't working for them, I'm not the person for them, and I'm not hurt by that. I'm like, oh, I'm a shitty extreme haunt actress. It's just people respond differently, to different things, and that's kind of what
some people are just dead inside too.
Some people are dead inside, but it's important to like send them to somewhere else to learn them essentially. Like,
there's only so much we can do. So if they're not being responsive to what we're throwing at them, and they're just a brick wall, right? There's nothing there. They're like, yep, that's how it is. Okay, you want me to do this? All right, yep. And just being really sarcastic, it turns us off to them, honestly, when I've experienced it in different shows, to the point where it's like,
I don't want to see this person again. I'm like, keep them away.
Yeah.
Yeah. It I don't want to say
Kind of there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I think that if you're not at some point having fun with us, or if you don't have like a holy shit moment, or that was kind of cool, or wow, I didn't know I was afraid of that, or something to that effect, then you've kind of missed the boat on why you're there. You know what I mean? Because you can, it's kind of a low level thing, but I would compare it to going to a haunted house and being like, I am going to go here and I'm not going to have any fun. I'm going to have zero fun. Like, nobody's going to scare me. Even if I do get a jump scare, I'm just going to be like, I saw that coming or whatever, like that is not going to be fun for you. So that's why, kind of going back to what we've explained before, we would encourage you to have fun with it and let yourself be immersed. Even if you're not going to be scared, allow yourself to scream.
Yeah. Be immersed.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
We've talked pretty in depth with Joshua Simon-Lake from Blackheart Collective,
who is in the chat, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Shout out to Josh. So he mentioned something that really resonates with that, and he says, I'll go to experiences or to haunted houses and like I'll fully let out a scream, or whatever, or I'll kind of play it up a little bit to give the actor that fuel of, hey, I'm having fun and I'm in this with you. So even if you're not actually scaring me or actually getting to me, I'm still gonna be in the moment.
Yeah, I took my son to something. It was local. It's a complete boo haunt. We're staying far enough away back from him, and he was getting really terrified. And I played it up for him. Oh, Dad's scared too. It's okay to scream or to run off, or because one of the guys came out of this little house with a chainsaw and scared him to death. I grabbed his hand and we ran. That's the whole point.
It's hard to find things these days that are scarier than real life for like adults.
Well, but like they said, you've got to turn your brain off.
Yeah. No, with them it seems like they'd terrify me. That's what's good about them. But regular haunted houses it's hard to be scared of things when it's like, okay, well, yeah. But it seems like you guys do 8 hours. I mean, that alone scares me.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody from a different haunt, and she told me that after about the 3.5, 4 hour mark, that you kind of lose it. Your mind starts to wander, and you almost go with the flow until you can't handle it anymore. Courtney has a question. She said, if you can answer this or willing to, what's one of the most memorable freakouts you remember? You don't have to be specific on who it was, but just kind of, if you can vaguely answer that.
So I actually have a follow-up question. Courtney, do you mean freak out as in like anger, or are we talking fear, or what emotion are we going for?
Yes.
Fear.
That I like that answer. I mean, Nikki answered that question for us.
I don't have any laughs here or anything like aggressive or angry. Like closest thing to angry I have is
I mean, Caleb,
he's pretty angry.
Absolutely hit it on the head. If everybody's having fun, then it's totally what you're doing. And Courtney, I am watching for your answer, so just pop it in the chat and I'll see it. I'm sure she means probably being freaked out as in scared and upset, but I don't like the words.
I'll get upset.
There we go.
Because
Any, I guess.
Any. Okay, cool.
I combine them.
They freak out because something had occurred in their brain and they don't know how else to react other than anger or panic. They're like, we bring up something or we have been doing something so consistently that it is their fight or flight, and they automatically just go like, fuck you, fuck this, I'm not, whatever. And it's a response.
Mm-hmm.
it's just a response, and it's always the same. It's them getting angry or crossing their arms or crying or whatever. And that doesn't mean they're done. You know, like if they freak out, we'll let them freak out. If they, you know, I think
So, oh, I'm sorry.
Fear-wise, I'm trying to think of one that really
Do you
stood
wanna
out to
tell
me.
the-
The situation.
Yeah, she did.
She cried. Okay.
Yeah,
We all cried.
She cried.
We all cried.
Yeah,
Yes,
you all cried
did.
together. Yeah. So we had a situation that a person didn't tell us that they had a condition that was like a physical ailment that, with what we were doing to them, it would not be very fun. So we had a guy that had some issues with his ears. I guess he had like tubes in his ears when he was younger, which I myself have had, so I understand that whole dynamic. And when one of the small things that we do as far as a physicality is an open hand like strike, you know what I mean, like slapping and stuff like that. And so he had experienced that several times. And unfortunately, it got to a point where he like just kind of lost it and was like, I'm done with the show. Like, I'm out. Like, and we pulled him aside and we're like, hey man, what's going on? We want to make sure that everything's okay with you. Like, what's the deal? And we broke that fourth wall with him and everything. And he just said, he's like, well, you guys are boxing my ears and it hurts. And I don't want to go through that anymore. And we're like, okay, this is why when we ask you in the waiver if you have any medical things or anything that you can think of that might cause that bad experience for you, that you need to tell us. And luckily,
That's my biggest concern for doing something like that.
Well, and I asked in the beginning, is there anything medically that we need to be aware of? Are you allergic to anything? Because we can adjust our show to accommodate medical reasoning.
I mean, if you got birth control on your arm, tell us.
Yeah. We had someone
something
do
that small.
Yeah. A lot of us.
Because I went to Alec and I said, "Hey, Alec, will you tell Carly that she has Nexplanon?" He goes, "What?" And
What's
I was
that?
like, "She'll know."
He's like, what's the thing in the arm? And I was like, it's a birth control. Don't worry about it. Just don't touch it.
Yeah.
You can teach me about that on Saturday's show.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a business level, we all kind of come from customer service backgrounds, so we know that if one thing goes really bad in a show and they're unhappy with one thing, then that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to have the best show. So it is our intention to make sure that we don't do anything intentionally that just makes you angry or just makes you want to quit the show, because that's not fun for anybody.
And that's true about anything. That's not just like in your field. Like that's true. Like if I've seen a movie and like there was somebody next to me that was just really like obnoxious or like not into it at all, like I shut down. Like that's the first thing I'll remember. Like when I watched that movie over again, I'm watching it and I'm like, ah, God, that lady next to me when I saw that the first time was really mean.
Yeah, it imprints on your mind. But on a fear side, I think ironically enough, clowns have been something that have surprised me. Just like how afraid of clowns people are.
Clowns.
Yeah, we actually had a participant that was in this last show that clowns was like an ultimate deep set fear for him, and it's just interesting to like see people break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I met Bozo a lot when I was a kid, so I'm not afraid of clowns. But bees is what gets it for me. Just to tell you guys, like, what's my biggest fear? Bees. I'm not afraid of anything, but if there are bees around me, I'm like, get that thing the fuck away. I can't kill a bee with a sword. I can probably kill a bee with a bow, but like, it's like, get a bee away from me because it's too small to kill. That's always how I viewed bees. It wants to hurt me, and it's too small for me to kill.
Here's another one that I found kind of interesting. Have you ever had somebody try to actually run out of the entire experience?
No.
Not yet.
They don't know
They
where
don't know
they
how
are.
to get out.
Yeah, so it's very much like, it's not necessarily it is guided because we know where we're going at all times. If they try to run out of where we station them, they will get lost.
So you like blindfold them and then throw them into it?
Sort of.
Awesome.
We'll tell you this. We've had, so Carl Webb from Haunting and several of our other participants have described it as you feel
Wasps
like,
are bad too.
like you're in a labyrinth. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, the wasps. This is the only wasp that I'm okay with. Evangeline Lilly, she is the only wasp that I will let into my house. Any other wasp gets in here, you're gone.
See, Nikki's our resident nerd, our child nerd.
Chris,
See, that's what I like about that's what I like about these experiences is the mystery behind it. You don't know what to expect. I mean, there's places where you can kind of break down the idea of, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And then you've got places like, Krusebel, where there's so little knowledge out there, where it's like fear of the unknown takes place.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. We did that.
Fear of nothing is a big one too. Like that's the thing about nothing is humans. Yeah. Humans, the most that we can conceive is like nothing. The most we can perceive as nothing is complete and total like darkness, sensory deprivation. But none of us really actually know what nothing is. Like, because we've never experienced nothing before. Our hearts are still beating, our blood's still pumping through our veins. The absolute nothingness of it. That's a big fear for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Well, I was in an experience once, and I was sitting in a room completely blindfolded, duct tape over my eyes. I was sitting in a chair, not to move, and I had these headphones on where somebody could communicate with me. Well, somebody very quietly walked in, and it was a woman, and put her hand on my shoulder and started talking just real monotone and relaxing, and then all of a sudden the hand left, and I'm assuming the person walked out of the room because it is pitch black in there, you can't see anything. And that was the most terrifying of not knowing what's going on, is I could feel my anxiety starting to go up just as that slight touch, and she just started talking, and then all of a sudden gone. And I'm like, am I in here by myself? And what's going on? What are you guys doing around me? I have no clue what's going on. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about stuff like this.
That excites you. Like, you're scared, but it excites you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like this one too. The fear of where I was going next was definitely a big part of the experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts too. Is that there are points where there's a group of actors and we're out for blood and nobody knows which person is gonna get them. Yeah, it's kind of one of my favorite parts. Is just like I know which one I'm getting, but they don't know.
Yeah, it's fun to see the look in their eye when they look at us like, oh dear,
where am I going?
Like, I haven't seen you, I haven't seen you, I haven't seen you, I've seen you, please don't grab me again. Or
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier too. So Eli, since she had been in before, she actually, in a lot of ways, added to the show, because we would say things like, "Hey, tell them what happens if you do this," and she'd be like, "Oh, let me tell you," So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I bet it was. Fear and excitement is definitely intoxicating. That release of endorphins that people get from, the thrill. Okay. Last question, because the questions are kind of dying down. What is your favorite part to see in a person? Whether it be the end where you're going up to, say, Chris or Melissa, and you're telling them, congratulations, you've finished the experience, or do you have that one moment where you just see something and it's like, wow, like that I saw it in a movie once, and then I started DJing and I understood it. It was called The Nod. At the end of the night, when everything's over, you have somebody that looks at you and just gives you the nod, and you're like, I know I affected that person, whether it be in Chris's case, for the bad, he couldn't eat his burrito the next day, or, just the act of, I completed this. Chris admitted he ended at 9, which, in my opinion, just signing the waiver and starting is, you've earned the title of badass, in my opinion, because it takes more guts to start than it does to quit. Do you guys have something that you look forward to seeing?
I think we all have one little different thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna let them answer first because I've talked a lot. So
I think my favorite thing. There's so many parts about it. You know, the fulfilling parts and you know things like that. However, if I had to genuinely say what is my favorite, is I love it when people tell me secrets about their lives. I love it when we get down and dirty and they tell me something they've never told anybody else. But I can't be nor comforting nor an asshole. You know, I have to. And that's probably my favorite.
Just like a level of total acceptance. Like that's kind of like what I'm curious about is that like it's kind of like this sort of like liberating experience where your own fears of yourself, like people have fears in themselves, and like they get to face those fears and overcome them. It all just sounds really cool.
Well, and Nikki, I would recommend you actually connecting with Joshua Simon-Lake, who's in the chat. He is a part of the group called the Blackheart Collective. They're in Michigan, so they're closer to Boston than, say, you know, they are in Utah.
I mean, for me, Michigan is essentially Boston. Like, it's hard to get, even though I'm only a little bit out of the city, it's hard to get to both places. If somebody will drive me to any of these things, I will gladly do them. I'll take a camera, whatever people will allow. But no, I'd love to do one of these things. It's just, it's a logistical nightmare for me.
Well, and
Like,
the problem is this year the
going
basement closed. The
Yeah.
basement would have been a great stepping stone because they're in Boston. I'm sure, Eli, there is an absolute story I would love to hear, but I know I can't.
I've been social distancing for 12 years now, so like it's all
afraid of all the things to wash yourself. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I would say the one thing that I look forward to each night is when people show up and they start, you know, shit talking, for example. Chris is one of them. Who is a big shit talker.
But we got you to quiet down a little bit, didn't we?
I love when participants learn what happens when you talk back to us.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is to go into where they are and see them progress through the night and see where their mind is throughout the night and see where all of a sudden they have this dead look. And as we were talking about, they turn in from a person's like, ha, into like you're going against each other because one person's laughing and they're like, hey, don't laugh or else. And your people that you're with are like, shut up, you know? And then all of a sudden it just gets quiet and there's this dead look, almost as if they're just like, they're like a teddy bear just sitting there staring at you because they can't process what's going on, or they just have like this fear of like what's going to happen. And I just love how it just gets quiet. That's what I look forward to.
That's why I let them answer first, because I have a two-parter answer again too. So I have two favorite parts for two separate reasons. My first favorite part is what Chris was describing earlier, where you're making eye contact, face-to-face eye contact with that person, and you finally realize that they have transitioned from I am in a haunted house, I'm in an extreme immersive experience, to that maybe even brief moment where they're like, holy shit, I'm in an asylum. Like this is real. Like in this moment, I am in an asylum, or I am in, with a serial killer or whatever it may be. That is one of my favorite moments on the sadistic side.
It's like the light left their eyes.
I just paid someone to kill me, like essentially.
Yeah, my empathic kind of like happy side would be the end, when you're like, when you look at them and you're like, hey, you made it, buddy. Like you did this. You know what I mean? Like you're in the clear, right? Because that's if you're going on a heavy hike or something, or if you're like trying to break the wall in a workout or whatever it may be, that moment of release when it's like you did it, that's a lot of fun for us too.
I think what people don't expect necessarily is for us to cheer you on at the same time. We do a lot of heavy encouragement and a lot of heavy of check-ins, because we're like, where are you at? Where are you at?
It seems like a supportive environment, even though you guys are trying to scare the shit out of people.
More like, you better fucking make it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool to tell people that you're proud of them. I like that. I think it's cool for us to like sit them down and be like, hey, because I don't know. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, you're only good at level 8 or whatever, you know. And it's like, no, be proud of it. You did. Yeah. You went as long as you could go. So that's awesome.
We had someone this last show that was a repeat customer, and she didn't make it. And we were talking to her at the end, and she was like, really, like, I was that close, like, you were that close, you know?
Oh, she was yeah, she was like 20 minutes close to done, and I was like, want to go back? And she's like, and I said, you should go back. And she's like, I don't want to. And I said, what time do you think it is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I said, you had 20 minutes, and she was done.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
I absolutely. This basically 2 hours has flown by. Guys, I can't thank the three of you enough for. I know it was a long weekend. Obviously, you know, you had Melissa, Sal, Chris, and the others. And they're all good friends of mine. I find that these people have become really good friends of mine. And I know some of them are hard to deal with. Obviously, somebody who comes to mind is Melissa. I'm sure she ran her. I'm sure Melissa.
That was my favorite character development from being like a sassy shit talker to her end. Genuine replies.
And that's what I like about shows in general is you can see, you know, people that I go in, I'm going to be the submissive one. You're going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to do it just because that's the way I am. That's the way I like to process things is I'm going to go with it because I know if I shit talk and get in your...
We're losing you.
You're dying.
You just lagged.
Oh crap! We have a good soundbite for when that happens.
That's how the show ends.
Hold on a sec. No, don't break the soundbite. We have a really good soundbite for when that happens. Why isn't it happening? God! Oh God, the soundboard's not working, guys. This is catastrophic.
You were on it the whole night, and now when you need it,
for me.
Wow.
and now when he needs it, he needs.
It's Arizona. You guys know how it is. We're in the midst of monsoon season, so.
You were supposed to get an Andy's dead.
So what were you saying? I completely missed what your sentence was. Can you repeat that for us?
Basically it is. I'm the submissive one. Basically, I like to just go with the flow, not be one of these people that I'm going to get in your face because I don't want that to happen. But I like being with people that are because that's them. I like to observe from behind. I don't want to be, you know, any more than me.
There you go. I was late, but I got it.
Andy's dead.
We're gonna kick you out so that we can do the bit.
Andy's dead.
He hates when I do that, but
yeah. Nikki,
he moves himself on top.
So yes, Courtney, I'm in Arizona. I live just outside of Phoenix.
Stop trying to get dates, man.
No. So I know this weekend was a long weekend for all of you, and I asked Chase, I was like, hey, do you mind coming on and just kind of shooting the shit and, you know, keeping within your NDA? That was a big sticking point. And from everybody here at my channel, I want to thank the three of you for taking the time to hang out with us.
I was really excited, actually. Yeah. I hadn't been a part of any, like, interviews that Chase had done with Chris or like any other person. So when Chase was like, "You guys want to do it?" I was like, "Yes, give me on it."
Well, and anytime you guys have something big going on, reach out and we can absolutely work something out.
Or if you just want to talk about Batman with me, we do that too.
Or you know, you want to talk bees with me, the birds and the bees. Ooh.
And the Batman.
But where can people find you three on the internet?
I mean, the best place for me is probably just Instagram. For you, it's Instagram. For me, it's Facebook.
I love how they spoke in unison right there with the
We are one, and that's why we run Kruseb.
Yeah. Together we are breeze.
Yeah. I don't, to be completely honest, I don't care for social media that much, but I
love
do-
you.
Probably
Instagram.
Crucible Instagram would be where I would suggest getting a hold of us if you want to ask questions or if you're interested in a show. The Crucible Instagram will be a good place to start.
It's just at Crucible.
We do. It's spelled Krusebel. For those of you that are looking for it. And just keep in mind that you may get us to respond in character, or you may get us to respond as our actual selves. So keep that in mind. And I know that people that have talked to us before know that we kind of go back and forth between that. So.
I also answer some questions on my personal one because he runs the Instagram. So
Mhm.
I'm you're trying to reach out to someone else.
Yeah. So
mine's just Megan Mahoney, MAGON, and then
And my Facebook name is Chase. It has my Haunter name in the middle, Chase Mr. Fear Dunfield. So
yeah. And she's like, I'm not talking at all. Also,
I have to research to find you. You gotta find me.
Yeah.
whoa. Also, guys, link to their website is in the description of this. castleofchaos.com is in the link of the description of this video. Chris, how about you, buddy? Where can people find you and what you're working on?
I got a YouTube page, The Great American Horror Road Trip. Follow it, subscribe. There's not much on it yet, but there's going to be a lot coming very soon. I got either the business page for the Facebook page and then also the Facebook group, same name. And on Instagram, I think it's just Horror Road Trip. It's the Instagram.
Oh, yeah! And Mr. Nicky, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me TMG After Dark. It's harder to say than it is to be on, apparently. But yeah, you can find me. I'll do videos. Maybe I'll do some like VR videos this week. Nicky Flicks, and that's Nicky Flicks with an X. And if you want to add me on Facebook, it's Nicky Sullivan. It's SULLIVAN. I'm Irish. It's easy to spell. Find me on there. I pretty much add anybody who wants to be my friend. So be my friend, guys. I'm lonely.
And Nikki, I'm sure the three of them could help you make lots of friends at the castle. I'm Matty G. You can find me at Matt Graham. You find me back here Thursday nights. We talk all things pro wrestling on Suplex City Chats. This upcoming Saturday, we'll be doing another After Dark. It may not be a takeover. It may just be a shooting shit. Who knows? And everybody here, I want to thank everybody in the chat. Everybody that's been a part of it, please do us all a big, big favor. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you're watching on Twitch, follow. Everybody, again, thank you so much for being a part of this, and keep scaring.